All right, guys. I have no idea if anybody can hear me. This probably isn't going to work too good. How's it sounding now there? Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Can you hear me now? Oh, thank goodness. I'm back in business. And that's a perfect example there of trying to work your way through a problem. Sometimes you got to work your way through a problem. And me, well, I'm still new at all this. I appreciate everybody's patience here. Monkey Food Garden, Jeff, Henry Morgan, Drashel, Sparkly Sparrow. Yeah, I appreciate all your guys' patience here. Yeah, I'm an old guy learning new tech. Sometimes that stuff doesn't go good together. But like I said, I appreciate all your patience there. It took me, 12 minutes to work the bugs out of that. And I can actually tell you what was wrong. There was an update that I missed, and that is the reason why it didn't work. But luckily, I got a hotline to my IT person that can help me work through these problems. I'm telling you what, if you're an old person in this day and age anymore, and I mean, I'm in my 50s, so I'm no spring chicken anymore. It's good to have a younger person that you can work through some of these IT problems. But it's just a perfect example of working through all the difficulties. But how's everybody doing tonight? It's been an interesting week on the world stage here with all the stuff that's been going on. They just finished up the North Strike, I guess, military maneuvers that they have in Michigan every year about this time. They do a lot of training with other countries and stuff and different branches and whatnot. They do it out of Alpena, Grayling up in the UP. But Deb Smith, I am so glad that everybody is hearing me. How's everything going in Hawaii there, Deb? Boy, maybe I'll get to Hawaii sometime. Probably ain't going to be in the next couple of years though, but you never know. Things happen. And you know, just this little quirk that we had here with the tech, it's a perfect example of being able to handle them small little storms in life. Sometimes them small little storms in life turn out to be big. There's lots of times I've talked to people that are kind of ready for the big things, but not so much the small things. So, hey there, Mary, how you doing? Mary is one of my oldest subscribers there. I always appreciate talking to her. Coney, canned all week. Got the dehydrator running for the old bread to make chicken snakes. I haven't canned anything yet this week because we've been running back and forth on a lot of stuff. But I got potatoes that are drying. Hey there, Old Spice. How you doing? Hey, Bob. The potatoes, if you don't know anything about potatoes have to be cured before they're actually put up. A potato is a living thing, and after it's harvested, the skin is typically really, really thin. And what I do is I spread that out on newspaper or on cardboard on a cool cement floor, and then I cover it up with another layer of newspaper because potatoes like dark. And then I let them go for a couple of weeks. And what that does is that actually hardens and dries off the skin and actually makes them more resilient. And then I sort them out. Any potatoes that got any blemishes or any damage on them, I take them out. We use those right away. And then the medium to large size potatoes that are looking good, they are the ones that get put up, and then the smaller misshapen ones, whatever, we use those right away. Oh, thanks for the invite there on the Hawaii thing. Like I said, never know, I might get there. I would probably do something really ridiculous like buy a bunch of pineapples and bring them back home here and dehydrate them. Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. Good to see you, man. I appreciate you trying to help me out there when I was struggling. Hopefully, I didn't look too corny while I was doing it. Have you heard about the issues with federal ammo and poor quality ammo due to source material issues? I have not heard that, but that doesn't surprise me. Now, I can tell you something because I sold, that stuff for years upon years. They, being those manufacturers, are just like any other manufacturer. They want to use the lowest, the lowest bidder gets the stuff, whether it's primers, powder, whatever. And learned a lot of things about how they put stuff together. A lot of the components go through a QC process. And this is particularly with, I got told this from some waterfowl guides that did tours of the Olin factory with the shot that they used. And if you're familiar with the shot that they use, the steel shot and stuff for waterfowl hunting, they actually run all that shot through a screen, and the stuff that passes muster goes in the higher quality shot shells like the dry lock and whatnot. And the stuff that doesn't pass muster goes into the lower quality shot shells like the Expert and whatnot. Those were the brands at the time. So I can imagine the way prices are going up, and then manufacturers trying to, of course, make as much as they possibly can. I can definitely see where there could be problems with poor quality ammunition. And Federal, I'm not sure if Federal is still part of ATK, but ATK was a conglomerate, and they were just starting to consolidate those industries when I was getting out of the game 5 years ago. So Federal, I want to say Spear, Gold Dot. Gosh, what were some of the other ones that were all um, CCI? That was all under a parent company called ATK at the time, and ATK was trying to get military contracts and trying to, because that's where the money is in that stuff. Civilian stuff is just a small percentage, but military contracts is what is all going on there. So that is something that does take place, and that's why you will get certain lots of ammunition that are actually really good, very clean burning powder, because they got a deal on better powder that particular run of ammunition. Anyway, you could go into that stuff into depth, and all the manufacturers that made that stuff when I was selling that stuff has basically all been bought and sold 3 or 4 times over. None of the manufacturers that used to have that stuff and manufacture that stuff are the same anymore. I mean, the same thing with, I always use Remington as an example. Remington, I would have never thought there would a day when Remington would ever file bankruptcy, but it got bought out. There were lawsuits, things happened, and it just went away. And that's why if you're lucky enough to run across older Remington stuff that was built between 15 and 20 years ago, that is better stuff than anything new that is manufactured today. And that is the unfortunate part of it. Let me know anything you want to know about Hawaii. I'm a refugee from that communist state. Oh, and I know Hawaii's terrible with firearms. Hawaii is awful with that stuff, and so that I have been told. Beautiful weather, but that's the way things go in this day nowadays. Let's see here. Oh, Mother Refugee is in here keeping an eye on me. It's good too. I need all the help that I can get. I'm just a handful sometimes. Um, I wanted to originally, my plan for this live stream here was kind of talking about the storms in life. Things like medical issues, job loss, storm damage. Storm damage is one too. I don't know how many times I have ran into people, and now especially with my job that I have now, people, they have the equipment to take care of storm damage, but then they don't have it ready. They didn't take the extra time to make sure that they had fuel for their chainsaws, or that their chainsaws or their generators have been started a couple times a year. They let all that stuff slide, and now something happens. Storms come around every summer, thunderstorms, whatever, and their stuff just isn't ready. And that's kind of the really boring part of prepping, that constant trying to stay on top of everything. And that, with day-to-day busy life, that's the difficult stuff. And things like medical issues. Medical, as almost 100% of us at some point in time are going to run into some type of medical issues. It's probably going to be unexpected. It's probably going to be pretty serious, how you're going to end up in the hospital or whatever. And then, people don't have insurance cards. They don't have the right information. They don't have lists of medication ready. They don't have all their diagnostic stuff from the past. They could have had a diagnostic thing that was done 3 or 4 years ago, and that that information might be helpful, but they don't have it, they don't have it handy, or it's dropped out of the system that there is. That's one thing that I do. I try to keep all our basic medical stuff. I try to keep hard copies of that here. So if we have, a CT scan or something like that, I like to have a copy of those radiology reports. They typically will give them to you. Just throw them in a file and keep them at home. That way you've got a little bit of medical stuff there. Just those small things that don't really cost that much can really help you out in a bad situation. Because if you're all messed up, you're sick, you're laying in a hospital bed, feel like crap, you're in a lot of pain or something, you're not going to think of all of that stuff. Let's see who's everybody in here now. Jen Meg saying hi there to Mother Refugee. Whitmer's been awful quiet lately. Yeah, that is true. I haven't heard much out of the people in Lansing here. Of course, the DNR wants to raise the hunting and fishing licenses through the roof next year, and I'm sure that they're going to get that done too. Hey there, Corsair. Good to see you here, Steve. I always enjoy listening to your advice. You're like my older, more mature uncle. Let's put it that way there, Steve. John Poole, audio is in and out. Hopefully it's sounding a little bit better than what it was. Like I said, I had didn't realize I had to do an update on my webcam, especially since we just bought it. 11 kitties. Hi there, Emma. Yeah, Mother Refugee. I gave her the honor of being a mod, so she's learning that stuff too. Appreciate you telling me there everything's good to go there, Hudson Valley. But those small things really get people. An unexpected bill, that's another one. Boy, and I'll tell you what, when we were young and we had the kids in school and stuff, I tell you what, if a $500 car repair came down the pipe, boy, that put a jam on everything. Just those small things like that. So being able to repair that vehicle, being able to have the money to get the repair parts, or if you don't know how to fix it, knowing somebody to fix it, and that's one of the people that when people talk about, having a group of people, I consider, a prepping group, people that are basically can take care of things that I can't take care of, so you need somebody that's a mechanic. I mean, I can just imagine if there would be some type of really bad economic downturn or really some type of really bad event would take place, you're going to need somebody to at least point you in the right direction when it comes to fixing vehicles, because you can cause a lot more problems if you don't know what you're fixing when you start tearing stuff apart. But there's been lots of times when I have went to a couple of different mechanic friends of mine and said, hey, what's up with this here? And they'll say, hey, yep, that can be fixed, we can do this and this and this, or you can go ahead and do it. Or if it's something more complicated or whatnot, they'll say flat out to me, they'll say, you know what, you don't want to mess with that. You want to take that to the dealership or whatever for that to get fixed. And again, that's kind of stuff that really doesn't cost anything, but as far as I'm concerned, is part of the preparedness game. Manly, careful, Mother Clucker, easy to twist again. Hey there, farmer. How you doing? Another thing that I have seen this so many times, and a lot of people talk about food. People don't have a lot of food in the house, only a couple days worth of food. This is one that I have seen tons of people do. When it starts to get cold, they go from their warm house and they start their car with their remote start. Their car warms up. They just put on a sweatshirt. It's 20 degrees outside with a 30-mile-an-hour northeast wind. They put on a sweatshirt and they jump in the car like everything is going to be good to go. Drive 30 minutes to a doctor's appointment or whatever. Then something happens. They slide in a ditch. There's some kind of problem. Now you don't even have a coat in the vehicle because you weren't prepared for the weather that is outside. And that's why I constantly insist that my family always has multiple coats and stuff in their vehicle, because people will go back and do that. Even my family does that. Yeah, I did make dinner. As a matter of fact, there'll be a video coming out here in a day or so, beans and rice video. And we actually took the leftover beans and rice that we had for lunch that I made for that video, and we made Spanish rice and refried beans with that stuff. Multiple meals out of one thing. A big pot of beans isn't just beans and rice. You can use it for other things too. Oh, city folks are notorious for this. Oh yeah, and there's people right here in town. My boss did it last year. He was jumping in and out of a vehicle with like a sweatshirt on. It was like 5 degrees. I said, dude, where's your coat? Oh, I don't have one. I said, man, that is just when something's going to happen. I said, you're pulling a trailer, or whatever, something's going to happen. You are going to be, SOL. Yep. So just those simple, I don't know, it's just like the common sense things, people will jump, will take off, and then their phones aren't charged, they're going somewhere, maybe where they need directions off their phone, and their phone isn't charged. Another thing that I've been seeing here lately, I watch a bunch of different channels on YouTube when it comes to preparedness, and there is taking someone to the hospital, there's no time to be feeling gas. Yeah, and that's true. And especially, it starts like with pregnant ladies. If your wife is pregnant, they tell you always keep a full tank of gas, and that's good advice. But it's good advice for everybody in all situations. Anyway, I listen to a lot of different channels, and I see a lot of people that are in different environments than me that say stuff that is completely, I disagree completely with. Like the one video, when I've been following the guy for a little bit, he's had a channel for a month or so, and his channel's grown quite a bit, and he doesn't believe in carrying a compass. And well, I'm in a city, I don't need a compass. And I had a situation that happened to me when I was in my early 20s that I wanted to share with you guys about, not knowing. Not knowing the cardinal directions that a compass would provide. Thank you very much for the super chat there. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the videos over the past few years. I've definitely influenced how I've been setting up my homestead. Hey, I appreciate it. That's what it's all about. I don't want what I know to die with me if something happens with me. My parents took a lot of time. My grandparents, the old timers, took a lot of time to show me all this stuff. And as this knowledge becomes kind of, obsolete for the rest of the world, I want people to know this stuff, because I'll tell you what, this stuff that I know has pulled a lot of people out of a lot of bad situations. Getting to the compass thing, we hunted Harson's Island. Now, Harson's Island is the Lake St. Clair or St. Clair River Flats, and what it is, it's a little sediment island that is created by the Lake St. Clair and the St. Clair River, which is part of the drainage system for the Great Lakes. And you can hunt there. It's known for duck hunting. You can deer hunt there, whatever. We were bow hunting there. And when I was down there, I was the first time that I was down there. You had the lights for the city. We checked out where we were going to hunt the day before. We had to walk a long way in there, and we had to go very, very early in the morning. It was pitch dark. There were lights from the city, like toward Detroit. It was very disorienting. I never had a compass with me. And this is where this guy says, I'm not carrying a compass. I don't need a compass. The situation is never going to be where I ever get, in a situation where I'm going to need a compass. 2000, thanks for the excellent content. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I didn't have that compass with me, and I got disoriented between the lights, what direction I was walking, and cloudy, couldn't see any stars. And even if I did see stars, there was a lot of city lights around there. I probably couldn't have made them out. So here I was in this, hunting area, but it was close to an urban environment, and I didn't have a compass with me. I was completely turned around. When the sun came up, I was in a completely different spot than where I wanted to be in, because I didn't take the time to take a compass with me. So I didn't know my cardinal directions. And at that point, I started taking a compass with me on almost any sojourn that I went on. And when I would get out of the vehicle, get ready to go where I was going, I would take I don't even want to call it taking a reading, but I would check that compass, and I would verify what my north, south, east, and west were before I took off into where I was at. I have to walk east to get back to the road or whatever. So to have somebody that's doing prepping videos saying stuff like, I don't need a compass. I'm not going to carry a compass. I don't need one. I'm in an urban area. Well, what if you're in an urban area where you're not you're in a different area, you're not familiar, it's cloudy, you can't it's at night, you don't know, your cardinal directions, you get turned around, you think you're walking one way or driving one way. And see, nowadays all the vehicles got little, north, south, east, and west things in them, but back in the day they didn't have any of that. So the whole not carrying a compass is something that I think is really isn't that smart. And I always try to take the Hippocratic oath of preparedness when I'm doing videos. I want to cause no harm. I want to help people. I don't want people to get into trouble because I gave them a piece of bad information. It's not just about the clicks and stuff to me. It's to help people out. Whatever, prepper. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just I just want to help people out. I want to give them, advice to things that help me. Compass in your vehicle. And that is it. It doesn't have to be the most expensive compass in the world. You can take $20 and you can take get a silver compass, a map compass, something light, something thin that doesn't cause a lot of doesn't weigh a lot. You don't need a huge, massive, lynstatic compass. Something to just basically tell you your cardinal directions if you can't, orient yourself can help out a lot. Like, hey, you know what? It got foggy outside, and I've seen this out on the bay during ice fishing. You'll have like a fog come in, you get turned around a little bit and you're like, which direction is shore. But if you have a compass on, you're like, hey, I got to walk west to get back to shore, I'm good. Yeah, I appreciate all the support from you guys, and like I said, I really appreciate it. You should write a prepper book. I actually have, I don't, where are they all at here? I have a stack of notes that I have actually been writing for a couple of years on just different things. And my goal one day is to actually write a book. I would like to have a book that touches on kind of all the old skills, kind of some of the modern things that I do, some of the things that I've learned, some of the old recipes, some of the old things that the old timers used to do as far as like, smoking meat and canning stuff and the stuff that they would put up, just how they lived. Definitely um, I would like to definitely write a book like that. So some of this knowledge here could be in a hard copy form, not just on a digital electronic format where people could use it for reference. Hey there, sub dog, how you doing? Smash the like button. I appreciate that. If you haven't been on Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival channel, definitely check him out. He's a solid dude there. I carry a compass on my keychain. And the thing with compasses too, it doesn't have to be the most expensive compass in the world, but as soon as you get it home and you're in a place where you know where your directions are, pull that compass out, make sure you ain't got any metal or anything on you that can disrupt that compass, and verify that that compass works. Take it out, hold it in your hand, look at it. If you know which direction is north, make sure that that compass is right, because compasses can be wrong. I haven't seen it a lot, but there has been a couple of times where I had a compass that didn't really work the way it should work. And again, just like anything else, any other piece of equipment you have, you want to proof that to make sure that works. Uh, I would really like to get the book done. It's just, with working and everything else, and now with all the family, medical stuff's going on, it's still on the agenda to get done. And I got to have time to sit down and do it. So I'm hoping one of these days I can definitely get it done. And then maps. I love the Delorme maps, and I think I got them actually. Most of them are actually being used, but I think I got one here from Wisconsin. Delorme maps, love them. And I got several ones of these for Michigan, but then I have all my surrounding states, my Wisconsin, my Ohio, my Minnesota. Those Delorme maps, I love them. And because most places you're going to drive there um, before you get on the trailhead or whatever. So I really like those, especially because they show a little bit of elevation change, or a little bit like a topo map. They're not like an actual topo map, but they show some elevation changes, and they got a lot of interesting kind of like points of interest and stuff on there. And they work really good with a map compass, the little flat ones that you can lay on there, and you can get you can orient yourself pretty easy, especially when you're driving on the roads. Hard maps are great. Yep, I love my Zeke Anderson. I love that name. Oh yeah, I appreciate you being here, Zeke, on the live stream. Zeke Anderson. That was the name of the character of the sergeant that was on the Vietnam drama war TV show when I was in my teens, called Tour of Duty. The sergeant was Zeke Anderson, and I think that's a kind of an awesome name as your name on your online handle there. It's pretty cool. So just like I did the flare video this morning that I put out, I had that local gentleman there tell me that story where he fell in water that he didn't even know that was there. He was hiking out of his hunting spot, got off of the trail just a little bit, and he was walking over skim ice that froze over basically a swamp. And even though the water wasn't that deep, fell through. And of course, you fall forward, you try to grab, and then next thing you know, he's soaked from head to toe. It's in the UP. It's during hunting season, so it's at least end of November. It's starting to get dark outside. You're soaking wet. He knew right away that he was in trouble. And he said, having something where you can start a fire quickly with just the bare minimum amount of work, can save your life really in those situations. All the cool stuff like, flint and steel fires and stuff. That's awesome when you're out doing like winter camping or whatever to practice all that stuff. But I'll tell you what, if you're in a really emergency situation, you want to be able to start that fire like that. And there's different times where I've watched videos where people say, oh, what do you need a fire for? If you're getting home, you're walking home, something happened, I want to get home as quickly as possible. I'm not going to start any fire. Well, if you freeze to death, it doesn't matter whether you're going to get home or not, because you're going to be, you're going to be an icicle. You're going to be a prepper sickle instead of being, kind of smart about it. Sometimes when you watch videos where people do nothing but talk and they don't actually show you anything, sometimes you want to take that with a grain of salt, and you want to go out and try stuff yourself and see if that information they're giving you is legit. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to dig into that too much more, but I think everybody knows exactly what I'm trying to say here. Zeke Anderson, love it. That's where I got it. Yep, that's awesome. Hudson Valley. My father and brother live in Escanaba. They live in Escanaba. Escanaba's a cool town. A lot of tough people up there. I know people that they're living a little bit of a ways from Escanaba, but Escanaba is the place where they go if they've got to get anything. And that's kind of the thing with the Upper Peninsula. To get anything, you got to drive 60 miles, because that's kind of about how far that the towns are spaced apart up there. It really is a lot of wilderness. I always say that the UP is like kind of like a small Alaska that we have here in Michigan. Multiple use tool, fire distress signal, side of the road. Yep. 3 hours without shelter and you'll die in that situation. And if you're wet, even sooner. I'll tell you what, it does not take very long. If you're wet and you don't have a way to warm up, dry your clothes, or change stuff out, that's why it's really important too, if you're going out on some type of adventure, to have some type of clothes in a dry bag as well. What we got going on here? New Yorker from Brooklyn. Had a wild accent. Hey there, Mark. How you doing? Mark's a good guy too. We're about a half hour into it here, because I was, good 10 minutes messing around. But there's so many situations like that where just really some simple planning can save a lot of problems. The other thing too is if you're going out and doing anything, it doesn't matter whether it's hiking or ice fishing or hunting or just sightseeing, whatever, you need to let somebody competent know where you're going, when you're going to be back. And that's the other thing that this particular gentleman did. He had a deal with his campmates that, hey, if I'm not back an hour after dark, I'm going to fire a shot and let you know that something's wrong. So if I'm not back an hour after dark, because it takes a long time to get back, and that's what he did. It was an hour after dark. It was he had his fire and stuff going, but he fired up in the air, and his campmates knew that was the signal that something was wrong. So then they came out looking for him, and of course he had he was taken care of, got back to camp, and everything turned out all right. But you can see where a situation, if you'd have lost your head in that situation, you didn't have kind of your gear and your skills lined up in your way, you could have, that could have been a lot worse situation. um, oh yeah, a canoe tipping over, that's bad even in summertime, because you know what, your canoe tips over, you can't get it up out of the water, your gear's floating down the river. That's can be a bad situation too. There's lots of times when I've seen people's gear floating by on a float trip or whatever. Carry a handheld GMRS ham radio, people, and nowadays, the way it is, and as easy as it is to get a GMRS license, what is it, $35 for several years? I don't even know off the top of my head. I put in for one. It took like, I don't know, 10 days or something, or 2 weeks, and I got my call sign, and I was good to go. Hey there, Sunset. How you doing? Sunset is another one of my longtime subscribers. I always appreciate Sunset being on my videos as well. And yeah, $35 for 10 years. That sounds, guys. I remember the $35. I did it back in December, and we've actually, me and some other folks here in the neighborhood, we've been talking back and forth on it. And the other thing too is my family can use it, and with with the radios that we got and stuff like this guy here, and then I got I got them even marked. Got them even marked on there that these are the GMRS ones. So you can jump on there and pick whatever GMRS channel that you want to use, and as long as your family members shout out your call sign, because I believe that is the legal way to do it. Shout out your call sign, and then you can go ahead and you can talk, because it covers the entire family. Do you do shortwave listening? Yeah. Hold on here. I'll show you guys something. Make sure I got my antennas unplugged here. This is my shortwave radio. It's a DX440, and I got this guy. It's a Realistic, which was the brand name for a Radio Shack. I got that when I was about 18 years old and I was graduating from high school. I got that, and I have been listening to it on and off ever since. And I've got a couple different adapters here where I can run on electricity, but then I can run batteries in it as well. And I've listened to stations all over the world. The thing with shortwave radio listening, um, it's usually run by governments, which means it usually has some type of they're telling they want you to hear from them. So it's a little bit of the old how do I want to say it? Code, a little bit of the Ganda is being put out on them. And then of course there's a lot of religious stuff. I remember back in the day there was a lot of old school survivalists that had channels on shortwave and stuff. But I got a lot of news. When I was a young kid, we lived out in the woods, and we didn't have CNN. So if I wanted to find out what was going on around the world, I typically would listen to the BBC, and the BBC would have like news from Africa, news from Asia, news from South America. So that's how I started listening to that stuff. Helped me a lot with my geography class too, because I had a small shortwave radio first, and then I kind of worked up to that one here. And like I said, that radio there, that DX440, I've actually looked them up. You can still find them like on eBay and stuff, and I've never really had a problem with that one. It's got a jack on the back, and I got basically a piece of copper wire wrapped around the house that I use for my antenna on that, and it works great. I have the same one, 13. Yeah, I do many of you hear snare sub dogs? I have set up snares already, but God, it's been a long, long time. I haven't done it. I know I have made a lot of snares already too with wire and a bent penny. You bend the penny and you drill a couple of holes in it, and that makes the lock on the snare. So when the snare slips, and it can't back out, then, and that's basically how the animal, when they go through it, and they try to back up, because animals always try to back up when they get into some type of situation that cinches the snare down, and that's basically how that works. Happy Gardener. I have listened to international stations online, learn about the stuff. Oh, yeah, you get a completely different. You start listening to shortwave, you get a completely different outlook on how they, see us as a country, people in North America, Americans and stuff. Yeah, it's not quite as filtered and whitewashed like you get here in the States. I would love to see you set up a snare line and learn. I have a older trapping video where I show the different traps, and it actually had a funny intro on it too. The problem with setting snares up is it's actually illegal. So if I would go out and I would show you guys how to set up a snare, I'm probably breaking a game law somewhere along the line. So it's basically just for that SHTF situation. I would love to show you guys how to set up a snare, but it's kind of like one of those things that you got to be kind of cautious with when you're putting it out online. But there's a lot of good books and stuff where you could look that stuff up, and I wouldn't surprise me if Dave Canterbury doesn't have something like that too, because he's got some trapping videos out there, and he actually had some pretty good advice, like where to set traps and stuff as well. Michael Wolf, hello from everybody. Hi, Hudson Valley prepping. Size. Oh, rabbits are kind of if I had to really snare to catch food, rabbits would probably be my target species, because it's easy enough to find a rabbit trail where they're running, and even in like town, rabbits will run like between shrubs and houses. If people had bird feeders up for a long time, and there's a lot of um, like sunflower seed shells and stuff around, they'll go and they'll forage in that, and you can actually tell, especially if you get a little snow on the ground, you'll tell where they're running back and forth. Like if another thing too is if people have grapes like in their backyard or whatever, grapevines, and maybe an apple tree or something like that, rabbits will run back and forth between these different areas. A thick bush, some grapevines, that's cover for rabbits, so they'll move back and forth. That's where you set your snares. When you find a trail of that small game like that, that's actually where you would set your snares. Muskrat traps. Oh yeah, muskrat traps. The conibear kill traps are another one. Those conibear kill traps, they're square. They got springs on either side, and they have safeties. Make sure you use the safety, because if you don't and it closes up on you, they are kill traps. They're designed for when the animal goes in them, it closes on their head, breaks their neck. That's exactly how it's designed to work. But if you get a piece of your body caught in that, and you got to have a safety on it. And if they don't have a safety on it, you can make one by taking a piece of wire, heavy wire, wrapping that around, and then making a hook. So when you're setting the springs, you can hook that to hold everything in place so it doesn't go off on you inadvertently. And then when you have everything set, you can take that wire off, and you have your fingers sticking down. And they call them fingers. They're like little wires. They're the things that actually set off the trap in a conibear. So that's the best that I can say without having one here right in front of me where I show you guys how they go. You can't just depend. Oh yeah, rabbits. That's true. Rabbit. You can't just eat rabbit constantly. But if you have a rabbit and you have some vegetables and you have a little pat of butter where you can fry him up in, I think pretty much most of your nutritional needs would be covered. And are your kids interested in prepper knowledge? Are my kids interested in prepper knowledge? I'd have to say more so now after 2020 than prior to 2020, because they seen the effects of a bad situation, that actually affected them. I'm building a pig cage trap, and there's a lot of wild hog problems in a lot of places down south, and there's even certain places here in Michigan where they're starting to have problems, like The one town is Gladwin. It's north of Midland, where Dow Chemicals' main facility is there. There is a lot of feral hog problems up there too. So I imagine eventually most places in the southern peninsula of Michigan are going to have problems with hogs. They're basically how do you call it, a feral invasive species, basically getting in and causing problems. Liberty Garden, how you doing there? Liberty Garden is another fellow that's been around the YouTube prepping game for a really long time. Like I'm throwing these names and stuff out here too because these folks have been, on my channel since the very beginning. If these guys are giving you some advice in the comments or something like that, I would trust any advice from the folks that I'm throwing names out here because I've gotten advice from them that I've utilized. And that's kind of what it's all about, sharing the information back and forth. Oh, and in Michigan, you have to have a fur harvester's license. And years ago, the junior ones used to look like this. You guys see that there? That was on the middle. You'd have to display that on the middle of your back when you're out setting your trap line up and stuff. And now, certain animals, they print tags out and stuff. It's a lot more complicated now than what it used to be. There's only certain things that you can trap. They just opened back up coyote again. Coyote has become a huge problem, especially where we're at here, where coyotes, when I was a kid, kind of really wasn't a thing around here. But that's kind of how everything has changed. Another thing, too, is woodchucks. Woodchucks were really not really a thing when I was in school, but now they cause huge problems around here, especially because they dig into the side of big ditches and farm drains and stuff. Well, then that makes a hole in there, and what happens is when you get flooding or you get a really heavy rain, that farm drain raises up, water goes into those holes where those woodchucks were, and it washes out parts of the ditch, which could cause washouts. And ditches run along roads, so then you have ground from underneath the road washing out. Oh yeah, it causes all kinds of problems. Hey there, Tammy. Tammy's another one of my longtime subscribers there. Mosaic Homestead, that guy there, he has got himself basically a self-sufficient place in Puerto Rico, if I remember correctly, because he's done different videos and posts and stuff where he had, just talks about all the issues that happened with all the problems they had there with the different hurricanes and stuff. And he has the definite advantage of the tropics, the weather in the tropics. He can grow food year round where, like I being here in Michigan, I can't. Anyone still have their hunter safety license and patch? Hunter safety certificates, where I am here in Michigan, you can actually petition the DNR, and it used to be with a phone call or a letter, and they can send you a replacement if you don't actually have the original one anymore. I never received a patch, but I did receive a license, and I actually got a spare license to take that with me if I ever would hunt out of state, because I'll guarantee you, if you ever go on a hunt out of state, you need to have that hunter safety certificate with you. Coyotes can be domesticated. Oh yeah, woodchucks are perfect bait, and you can eat woodchucks too. I've never personally eat one, but you can. Power went out, but I was good. I brought ice cream sandwiches. Hey, and you know what? If you can do that, that's great. That's great. And I think that's what most preppers want. They want a certain amount. If something bad does happen, they want a certain amount of normalcy. Now, me here, I know if some really bad event happens, life isn't going to be like what it is right now. But you know what? If there's still a certain amount of normalcy in my life, I still got heat here in the winter time. I can still wash some clothes. I can still prepare a meal. I can still get out, help my community, help my neighbors, go to work, earn a little bit of money. If things are going on, that's a little bit of normalcy. We're kind of prepared here to take on a little bit of hardship if it does, because I don't think that really anybody can go into a massive SHTF situation where they're not going to change their lifestyle a certain amount. And I think preppers expect to kind of buy their way out of, hey, I'm going to get all this gear and stuff. And, when that's all going on around me here, that's not going to affect me. I don't look at it that way. I feel if something bad is going to happen, it's going to affect everybody to a certain extent. Just some people are going to affect more than others. And I just want enough, normalcy that we can continue to function. We can consolidate as a family and as a neighborhood and as a community so we can get through that. I guess that's the easiest way to put that. Normal is a state of mind and being. Very, very true. Coffee and chocolate. I think a lot of people would be really upset if they didn't have coffee or at least tea or something. That little bit of that that little bit of caffeine really does a lot for people's mindset. And that's right. Gear doesn't always work. Skills above all. You know what? You can lose gear. Gear can go away. Gear can break on you. But you know what? If you know how to do things, and that's where I get back to like knowing a mechanic. You know, a mechanic can sometimes look at what the car's doing and tell you what's wrong with it, and maybe even tell you how to fix it. You don't know that unless you have the skill to do that. So that's kind of just a real quick analogy there on that. Does everyone have one under their shed? Oh, they love digging underneath foundations. And if you have sandy ground, woodchucks love sandy ground because it's easier to dig in, you know. Growing coffee. Yeah, you should Mosaic. You should come out with like a prepper blend or something like the prepper roast. I'll tell you what, you could market that. You may have all kinds of money coming in. The prepper coffee, have it like vacuum sealed in a bag and stuff. Put it on put it on YouTube, and you'd have all kinds of people looking at that. I almost guarantee you. Simplified living is actually a pretty good prep, and that's true. And I see that too, where people want to have these large homesteads, 100 acres and all this other stuff. What do you do when you turn 75 and you can't keep it? You can't keep your hands wrapped around that anymore, and the kids don't want to participate in that, so you can't really pass it on to them. Now you're stuck with this huge place and you're forced to downsize at an elderly age. So Mike Tango Whiskey, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck? I'm not sure. I don't think they have thumbs, so I'm not sure that they could really help me out much other than give me a few calories in the worst case situation. Harry Morgan, less is more. And I agree with that to a certain extent. I mean, I we have a small house. We have a small home. It's easier to heat, it's easier to clean. It's just sometimes less really is a prep. The more you got, the more you got to take care of. And I've seen that so many times where older, more retired people, they kind of like sell all their stuff because they're just tired of taking care of that. Tactical muffin top, stay vigilant, get fit, stock food. Oh yeah. And there ain't nothing wrong with throwing your pack on and taking a walk around once in a while, getting used to the feel of it, getting used to the weight of it. And there's nothing wrong with a good day's work, because it's going to show you, if like I got problems with my knees or something, it's going to show you, where you got problems and things that you can do better. If a woodchuck could chuck wood, I just set up a mobile home. It's Arctic rated, cools. I've thought about that too, having some type of camper and then spray foam insulationing it. Get a little bit of a wood stove that could be in there, and then park that out on my property and giving me like a cabin that's only a couple of miles away from home, to go out and just sort of unwind and get out of town for a couple of days. I've thought about that multiple different times. Even thought about starting like a secondary garden out there, putting a fence around it so the animals can't get in it, and have basically a an off-grid garden. Call it what you want. And there are farm drains and stuff out there where I could get water for the irrigation and stuff. I think it could be done. If you want to keep woodchucks away, put 2 or 3 stone down if you can afford it. I'll tell you what, I know basically the way they trap is probably illegal too for me to say this, but because you can't set a trap in a den. I think that's how the trapping rules go, but that's exactly how they catch a lot of woodchucks. Is they'll put a conibear body kill trap down in the den, and then when the woodchuck either goes down or comes out, it will snap on it and it will kill them. And the thing too with woodchucks, if you got sandy ground, they dig underneath a farm foundation. It can actually weaken the structures. it can actually weaken the structures uh, because they've been dug out underneath, and so that's another reason a lot of people that have big barns and big buildings and stuff, they start seeing woodchucks. They start figuring out how they're going to get rid of those things because they really can cause damage. Patriot peasant, bigger garden, less grass to cut. And that's true. And I can never understand why people have all this grass that they mow when they could be, growing tomatoes or potatoes or something. Because I'm telling you what, um, the amount of money that people spent on, um, the amount of money that people spend on lawn care, if people spent that on vegetables, growing gardens and stuff, I'll tell you what, people would be a hell of a lot more self-sufficient. I have not seen a single grasshopper yet this summer. Very odd. Library lizard. Used to see them all the time by us, but we used to have kind of a lot more wild space around here, and you just don't have that anymore. You just don't have that. Those wild areas, and that's like pheasants was a big thing that used to be around here. Pheasants used to be everywhere around here back in the early 1970s, but as ditch rows were plowed up and small woodlots were cut down and switched over to agriculture, they started to get into spraying, so they're killing all the daisies and all the grasses and stuff off that were kind of native around here. All the stuff that those animals used for cover, they are gone. Hudson Valley, you take care, sir. But all that stuff, it's so changed so much around here. The habitat just isn't there anymore. So then it drives the animals either away or they just die out. There's as much reproduction because they don't have a decent place to reproduce. They have to have a certain amount of cover for them, the hens to lay on the nests and stuff. No gardens, just pools and flowers. Yeah, no, I take a vegetable garden or an orchard over flowers are okay, because sometimes flowers got medicinal uses, but you know, I live in the Great Lakes. I can probably live without the swimming pool. I'm in mid Michigan and we have quite a few pheasants near us. We have more pheasants now than what we used to have, like back in the 1990s, because they've actually released a lot of pheasants around here. And I love to see the pheasants come back, but there just isn't the habitat around here that there was back even 10 or 15 years ago. Weed control wouldn't spray. And, like I said that about daisies. When I was a kid growing up, there were daisies everywhere around here. Now, I literally got to drive probably 75 miles to see wild daisies growing on the side of the road because there just aren't any anymore. With all the Roundup and all the spraying stuff around here, it's killed them all. They just don't. They're just not around here anymore. Karen is my good friend there. Karen taught me much about the native lifestyle. Karen is Potawatomi. Oh yeah, you can eat flowers, and dandelions are probably the one that comes to mind most. Everybody wants to kill dandelions, but literally the entire plant on a dandelion is edible. Will not grow any unless we can eat them, and that's not a bad way to look at it because then everything has a purpose. You're not wasting your time and resources on things. Eli in the Wolverine State, we have turkeys, not pheasants, so much more Michigan, and we had a lot of turkeys around here, but now they sort of opened up all the turkey hunting, so there's a lot more turkeys that are taken around here than what were like back 2006 2007. And because my wife and I, we have taken multiple turkeys and stuff already. Can't really pull it off the wall, but I got a turkey tail over here with a half a dozen beards on it and different spurs from the ones that we took. But yeah, the turkey population, there's still turkeys around here, but it's sort of dwindled down a little bit. It's not quite what it was like 15 years ago. Well, guys, it's getting on about an hour here. I was a little bit late, so I'm going over here a little bit because I didn't have my tech together. I got to work on that. Like I said, what better way to do it than is actually getting out and doing it. I really appreciate everybody coming by here, spending time. I appreciate all the super chats. I hope I really have helped you guys out here over the years with all my different videos on, kind of how I how I do my gear and how I grow food and how we can and put up stuff and smoke meat and how to make all kinds of improvised or bushcraft things. I hope that always helps everything out. I always try to give back to the preparedness community. That is kind of the whole reason why I do all this stuff. But anyway, guys, we're going to start wrapping it up here. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Deb, Coney, Subdog, Eli, Mother Clucker, Patriot Peasant, Sunset, Monkey Food Garden, Deb, Harry Morgan, Mary Gallagher, Whatever Prepper, Liberty Garden, Mark, Jeff, Mosaic. I just hope that people start to prep more and start to have more of a self-sufficient and stand up for themselves and take care of themselves a little more and not rely on some of them systems that out there that can basically fail us. But anyway, appreciate each and every one of you guys out there. Hope you guys always get something out of my videos, and hopefully I'll be back here again next week and do another live stream with you guys. You guys all have a good one.